Captain's Log Supplemental.
So, Miss Vicky.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember when we were watching those WRL events and some of those grid life events where you used to see the in-car video and it had like the cameras seeing front and back, but it also could see all the telemetry and everything that was going on?
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of the ones that we liked were taken by the Sentinel system. Remember James came on our podcast earlier?
Right.
You know, we have no excuse since he lent us one for trial and demonstration purposes. We should actually probably put that in one of our cars. Maybe two.
I really think we should.
I think we should.
I know.
Because then we'd look like the immature endurance racing team that we are. Oh, wait, I mispronounced that, didn't I? Sorry, my bad. We could
So what does the
have
Sentinel system do?
we could have 3 cameras with picture-in-picture. We could have, if we ever get the AIM system to work, open invitation to anybody from AIM to come on and give us a little bit of love. We need some help. And then we could have all our telemetry on there. And then we can have it streamed live into the paddock or around the world to our millions of fans. We're apparently very popular in Kenya right now. Don't know why, but that's fine. And it can integrate all the available race statistics from like Race Hero and everything. So we could actually see how we're doing on video. We wouldn't even have to carry around our phone anymore. Live.
I love it.
From the great halls of their house, there are assembled 3 who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team. Dominating with Dawson.
Welcome back to Dominating with Dawson with Dawson.
Hey, it's me. How about that?
It is me. Hey, me.
Hi, me.
So there's rumors that you are returning to the track, sir.
Yeah, I'm sneaking back out one more time. You never know when you're gonna get to the track again. It's been over a year for me since I've been driving a car on track. So it's gonna be nice to get back out there. We're racing AER with my friend Reed's E36 M3. It's gonna be fun. We've raced that car several times. They won both days of the week. The weekend last year, I wasn't able to be at the track. I was in Disney. But yeah, last year they did really well. So I'm hoping it'll be another good battle. Typically, we class out in about Group 3. So the middle of the 5 classes that they have.
That's awesome. It's he's got an E46 or 36?
E36.
36.
So
Okay.
late 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. Former podcast guest, if you want to go back in the archives. So Ben,
Yeah.
you and I have this habit of finding stuff on the internet. I used the word stuff there. I know it's different. And then sending it back and forth to each other. And one of the things that I think we did an interchange on was a YouTube video that was on Understeer. And I know you're not the biggest fan of Understeer.
No, I prefer, of the 2 conditions, I prefer an oversteering car. Not everybody does, but I do.
I get you. But the reason I sent it was that he broke it down into really 4 different types of understeer, and I don't think we've ever delineated it that way. So I thought maybe we'd go through that just a bit.
Yeah, this guy did a great job. Like the video starts, and I forgot, is he Australian or something?
Sounds like it. I'm not sure.
So yeah, I'm already thrown off because you see the most Dilbert looking dude you've ever imagined, and I'm like, what is this guy gonna tell me? And right off the bat, he's just like, boom, 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 speaking a lot of big truths about understeer. And a lot of times I fall into the pitfall of, since I'm anti-understeer, as soon as somebody starts talking about understeer, I feel a sense of malaise. I feel a sense of dread. I lose interest. But this guy kept it interesting. I'm sure we'll put a link to it in the show notes. But this dude keeps it interesting, keeps it down to earth. says, "Hey, if you got this, try this." He's good about reminding you not to try 5 things, but to try a thing at a time, which is a big crucial testing and adjusting rule for racing. So yeah, this guy, I immediately misjudged this guy, thinking he was like some kind of nerd, but he's got a lot of good stuff to say.
Yeah, I think he's got a book coming out on handling. Um, so he kind of broke it down a little bit, and his first type of understeer, to the surprise of just about nobody, was mild understeer, and that's kind of what
Right.
a lot of the cars come from the factory with.
Yeah, this is the phase where he talks about your car is built to mildly understeer to keep you on the road. And and I think this is also the phase where he kind of talks about most drivers, including most racing drivers, having a preference for this, right?
Yeah, he did. He did say that. I was sitting there going, I don't know these people, but that's fine.
Right.
I know the last thing I want to be doing is needing my car to turn and my car saying, not so much. I'll give you a
Yeah,
little bit, you know?
I feel like people use it as a little bit of a safety buffer. Like, hey, if I know my car's going to understeer a little bit, I feel kind of safe or something like that. Rather than tipping to the other side, spinning me out or something like that. So I feel like some people think that having a mild amount of understeer is a risk worth taking, and kind of makes it feel more secure and safe, maybe on track. What do you think?
Maybe I don't quite get it because I think my preference is a little more oversteer. But if it's mild, it's
Yeah,
not a big deal. I did go to the track one time with one of our road cars, and it was fairly early on. So um it was just a plowing pig, and
yeah.
I couldn't do anything with it. So one time we had one session where the instructor went out with me, and he's like, "Nope, it's not you." And
So you just flat out won't turn, huh?
it just it you could talk to it. It's like a bad golf shot. You can talk to it all day, and it still ends up in the woods. So just not good. But I think mild understeer is not going to be too bad. I think if you look at like a dead neutral car is almost impossible. So you're either going to have a little bit of oversteer or a little bit of
Yeah.
understeer. I don't really care if it's mild. It's not a big deal.
I think
But
I think most of us are used to driving production-based race cars, especially in
mhm,
endurance racing, where you might not have enough rules to let you have like the fanciest stuff to get your car rotating like a race car is built from the ground up. We're all used to that. It's just sort of an endemic condition. Would you say we're kind of used
yeah,
to that?
I mean, some cars you just can't get like some cars are camber challenged, or some cars are
Yeah,
there's just limitations to it, or the especially the stock OEM tires may be just junk
yeah.
or too thin, and being on the older side for the racing community, I remember back when a 205 was a big piece of meat down there, or 225 was like
Yeah, yeah,
top of the line, your
yeah.
Eagle
They were running two twenty
GTs.
fives.
Yeah, ooh, he's got 16s, and now you get the
Yeah.
Econo box and it's got 17s on it, but whatever.
Yep.
The one that I think you and I are quite united, and I can't think of anybody who wouldn't be, is his next criteria was the power plow.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Where
don't
you
think,
just give it some gas and the wheels stay pointed in the direction you have them turned. They're pointed
yep,
that way, but the car is still just moving forward instead of rotating or
yep, yep,
initiating rotation.
yep. If you grew up or have driven in the north where there's snow, or you driven in the south where there's mud, you're probably familiar with this, and it's just not pleasant.
Nope, it's pretty pretty sinking feeling
Hmm.
because I mean, if it's happening to you on your lap, well, crap, I'm throwing this lap away because whatever I'm doing, you're gonna
Hmm.
at the very best, you're gonna have an ugly corner. At the worst, you're gonna slide off the course. If you don't figure out
Yep.
a way to correct yourself, but back it down or check up or whatever. So you're in the middle of the quarter, probably having to do some kind of checking up where you would want to be adding power right about that point,
Yeah.
or at least getting your rotation well underway and not just plowing away toward the wall. So that's it's a bad and sometimes it's easy to kind of get sucked into it when it's happening and forget to like, okay, I gotta change something or else I'm just gonna drive right over the wall because I mean when it starts happening, you're like, oh, let me put some more wheel in it, and then by the time you've done that and realize that didn't help, you're like, you might be in trouble, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, in general, if you put a little more turn into the turn and you get no response, you've
Yeah,
done the wrong correction.
yeah. So it's easy to not realize how screwed you are until you're like, oh crap, there's the wall. So when
Yeah.
you feel that condition coming on, you want to be able to think about ways to to counteract it, whether it's opening the wheel back up, deepening your the pressure on your brakes, or whatever it's going to take.
Yeah,
That's
backing off on
that's
the
a
gas. I know
yeah. I
two
mean, that's
things: back off on
yeah,
gas and take it into the
yeah.
pits because it sucks.
Yeah, back it down, take it in.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean that's the first kind of understeer we talked about is kind of a condition. The kind of understeer we're talking about now is more of a failure,
Yeah,
I think.
and
You know,
hopefully it's in practice and
yeah,
not in a race because if it's just plowing on power, there's some changes you can do as a driver, but this is one where you might want to say, what do I need to do to the car?
yeah, yeah. If I had that happening all the time, I'd be changing stuff. I'd be changing stuff the next time I went in the pits and start working on
Yep, exactly. Not that we know what to do, but we know people.
it. It's but it's miserable and it's unsafe, so that's something
Yeah,
you have to address.
yeah, that's a safety issue more than a performance issue. Third type he mentioned was power understeer. That's traditionally thought of front wheel drive cars and even a lot of the four wheel drive cars because
Yeah,
most of them are front wheel drive based. Um, that's where on power the car starts to understeer because you're just asking too much of the tire. It can only accelerate and or turn to a certain
yeah,
amount. And then
yeah.
when you exceed the demand of the available account, much like your bank, you will get a penalty.
Yep, yep. What and I don't remember him talking much about the workaround for that. Is that? I mean, I would just imagine that'd be more of a throttle timing and car angle kind of thing. Get your car pointed a little bit better,
Well, he
or
mentioned a couple things where there's setup related
yeah.
ideas.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I was thinking there's more stuff you can do in the car in the moment.
Yeah,
But yeah,
in the
he has
car
some
at
good
the
setup
time.
stuff for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically, you either need to turn less or apply less power and or maybe both depending, but it's more of a manageable condition that you can drive around, but if you can set up your car to fit your I'm going to use the word style with quotes around it, preference, whatever. There's some ways to do that I think he mentioned was one was to make the rear two tires be able to um, work a little harder, making it more difficult for them. So taking away some grip from there, and he preferred to start there. So like stiffening sway bars or springs or dampers, or maybe even toe out were the
Right.
first things he'd go to, but he would not go to them uh, at one time. Like don't do all four.
Yeah, he made me feel kind of like a screw up because I'm always one of the first things I'll go mess with is tire pressure. And I don't think the guy said the first thing about tire pressure. So
He did.
maybe I've been.
He
Oh, did
did
he?
on the next one, but yeah, he
I
didn't mention tire
was gonna
pressure on
say
the first
when he went through that, didn't say anything about tire pressure. I was like, well, I guess I'm a screw up. But we don't all have the adjustabilities that he was talking about. But yeah, one of the first places I go, I think he was saying this too, is if you're having that kind of understeer, you go start working on it at the rear first before you start trying to doctor it at the front because the front's already busy. The front's already doing
one.
so much. Like you mentioned, trying to turn, trying to accept some more rotation on the way out, trying to accept the power. Something's got to give, so it starts pushing out. But yes, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense to try to start stiffening things up in the rear to counteract that.
Well, I kind of thought of it as you're making the rear a little less stable, so it'll turn a little more,
Yes,
and
yeah, I want
B,
that rear to kind of hop on around, come
right,
on
and you're
around.
putting some more pressure towards the front, so now the front effectively has more grip since you're putting more
Yeah,
force there. So
pushing
it's kind of
harder.
a 2-for-1 deal. And then he shifted to where he was going to the front and trying to make it a little better, a little grippier. And first thing he mentioned was get a grippier tire. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks, buddy. Thank
That,
you so
that,
much for that advice.
I was like, gotcha, thanks. So if you know a mobile tire changer who's willing to operate while I'm going down the front straight at a little over 100, just let me know what his number is and I'll call him up and I need my grippier tire now. And then he did mention tire pressure, and it could be in either direction, right? It could be you're too low or too high. It really depends on where you're at, and you want it to be optimal.
Well, we already which understeer are we talking about now? Are we still talking about the power
Power,
on?
power. So he did mention that you could change the tire pressure, but sometimes you'll need to raise it, and sometimes you'll need to lower it, depending obviously on where you're at.
Yeah, I think if that were the case, and I got to the point of trying to adjust with pressure, what I would expect would be I would be trying to add some pressure to the rears first. And if that didn't give me enough, I might move my next step to being taking some pressure out of the front, especially the most loaded front tire, something like that, just to see if that thing will kind of roll. I want it to roll over harder on the front tire and come on around. That's what I'm hoping for. So if that front tire is effectively has too much pressure, sometimes backing it down will help that car pivot on that tire better.
Yeah, I would only add to that in that the easier way for me to do it, being an engine nerd that I am, I'd want to know my temperatures if I could, and then
Right.
I
Yes.
could
Yeah.
tell which way on my pressure, because I don't have an educated posterior to the point where I can say, oh, I need
Right.
2 pounds up or 2 pounds down. It feels
Yeah.
bad.
And of course, when I'm talking about doing something at one end and doing it at the other, I'm talking about doing one thing, checking it out in the session, gathering some data, temperatures if you can, and
Right.
then if you want to do something else, do it. I wouldn't do all. I wouldn't do all four tires at one time. If I was trying to do it back in the front kind of work, and
Yeah.
trying to get this one end to do something better or worse.
Yep. And I think we'd all agree that doing these changes is much better on a practice or a test day than
Yeah.
doing it in the middle of a race. So, try to avoid this condition. Keep good notes. Know what you need to do. Take your best guess with what you know.
Hey, but then again, let's look at the other side of this and remember that instead of getting demoralized and throwing the car on a trailer when you have a failure at an endurance race, it kind of takes you out of contention for what you were hoping for.
Mhm.
You can still use that track time to go, all right, let's try this. Let's try this.
Yep.
How do we like this? You could use it as a test day. People always say, oh, well, they're using this as a test day. Then they just go drive around and don't really do any testing. But, when you've kind of blown your shot at competitiveness, but you still got
Mhm.
all this track time and your car's doing okay,
Yep.
if you got it fixed and you get out there and learn some stuff with it.
Yeah. Especially you not only learn what the car needs, but the driver who's driving it can learn what the difference in feeling feels like and get a more educated posterior.
Yeah, exactly. I think it ends up being a wasted opportunity for a lot of people. And if anybody listening to this has done more than 2 endurance races, you've been there.
Mhm.
You've
You
been
may
in
not
that
have realized
spot
it, but
before.
you've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that for sure. And then obviously if you want this to do, you can make the rear stiffer or make the front softer, because that again
Yep.
minimizes your weight transfer back. And then grasping firmly on the obvious button, we went to if you on power are getting understeer, do not apply the power as quickly. Thanks. Got that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Hey, that's something to think about right there.
It's kind of like the Mustang memes where the guy's going around in a circle, and at any point, if he would just lift off the gas, he'd have a chance at saving it. But if you keep your foot planted on the ground, it's not going to get better.
Well, they do it on NASCAR, so why can't I do it in my Mini Cooper?
Yeah, because they know how to drive better than you. Um, and then the one that we I don't think we've ever talked about it. Maybe when we had Mario on, but was when you get understeer at higher speeds, like your understeer increases with higher speeds. Do you remember why that would happen, or do you know why that would happen?
Uh, I'm guessing because of chassis float, like
Lift, yeah.
air pushing up. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting to me. Never really thought about it. Makes total sense when you hear it or
Yeah.
see it. And you know, obviously what I know I would do as team captain, and when I see this is if one of my drivers radioed in and said this is occurring, I'd be shocked, and B, I would call Mario and say, what do I do? So
Yeah.
so
That
what you
that
need
is
to
something that's something you can combat with a little arrow if your rules allow, right?
mm-hmm. Yep. So if you need to call Mario, call him at 555. So yeah, it's Occam's Racer. It's I guess it would be a blog or a newsletter. I'm not quite sure, but he
They've
goes into this
they've
stuff.
got a healthy Facebook page too. The Facebook page is pretty active and people
Is it?
talk a lot on there. Yep. Yep. So Occam's OCCAM
Yep.
apostrophe S Racer.
Yep. And he's one of the people who tries to I guess the best way I put it is he's not a professional aerodynamicist, but he tries to figure stuff out and do experiments, and sometimes he learns and sometimes he gets more questions, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah. This guy loves to learn and loves to share what he's learned. I've raced lemons with him a bunch on the West Coast, and he'll tell you he's like I'm not the fastest driver in the world, but he loves everything about the sport and loves being into it. So this is he's a good resource if you're looking for information about aero and stuff you could add to your car.
And he'll be coming back on the podcast soon. He's got some testing coming up, and we've agreed to talk after the testing comes out. So it'll be fun.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I love that
Should be
guy.
good. So Understeer, it's not. I don't think it's Ben's first choice, but at least now you can think about it, and you have some driver and setup things that you can do about it, and maybe it'll grow on you, Ben.
Yeah, it's something that we've all had to live with more times than I've gotten to live with a happily oversteering car that just wants to whip around the corner. So, I mean, you got to just make the best of a situation that's not ideal. I mean, these most of us are driving production cars that were built to inherently have a little bit of understeer. I mean, the Miata, I used to have the Miata race car with all the spec Miata suspension. I could never get enough camber in that car, and I never got it turning the way I wanted to. It was okay. It was just too it was too neutral for me. But when you're fighting oversteer, the things you could try as a driver, because you're going to be stuck out there driving somebody's car, an endurance race, or your own car. You just kind of got what you got once you're out there.
Yep.
You're not going to go in the pits and get some air taken out, get some air added. You just got what you got for your stint. Things you can think about trying, or of the throttle, asking for different amounts of acceleration in different places. If you're trying to, if you're getting turned in, you stomp the throttle and the car just goes nowhere, like a kind of exit steer. Maybe think about getting the car pointed around the corner a little bit better, and work your way. You don't want to be getting on the throttle any later in the lap, but you may want to have your car pointed the right direction a little bit sooner, so you can kind of just drive right through the apex. And you might also think about, if you're driving a car that's got a lot of power, and you're just expecting it to just come up off the corner and rotate, and it's a high powered front wheel drive car, you're gonna have to think about squeezing the throttle. And maybe you were trying to stomp on the throttle where you could with a rear wheel drive Miata, and expecting that. But maybe what you need to be doing is getting everything done a little bit earlier and starting to squeeze on the throttle sooner than your stomp on the throttle point, and build right through that so that you're still pretty full power on the exit. But a lot of stuff that I think you can do with steering and throttle timing, where you turn in, where you choose to turn in, where you want, what angle you want to end up at as you're trying to engage some power. So all those things will be different depending on what kind of car you're talking about, what kind of power you have. A lot of factors go into that. How well your car can rotate. Can you drive extra down to the brake zone, make a diamond out of the corner because your car will just turn around that fast and you can just blast right out, or does your car need time to kind of wind up around the corner and build momentum? So Miata, something like that. So these are all things to think about when you're trying to get your car to rotate and come on around and hopefully not be too understeery.
Yep. Speaking of aero lift, if I remember right, the Miata is spectacular at aerodynamic lift, and that could have been part of your problem because you were going too fast, Ben.
Yeah, it's just wide open everywhere.
That's right. Don't need no stinking brakes. They just slow you down.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if anybody else thinks of other stuff with aero, not aero, with understeer, let us know. GarageAerosandTraining@gmail.com.
Yeah, don't get sucked into the malaise like I do. If you're out there and you're stuck with it, just start trying different things, different timing, different percentages of this and that. Work it out. Do your best.
Exactly. Well, if not learning anything, at least we got an episode of Dominating with Dawson from all those things we zip back and forth to each other.
That's right. If we did one, is this Dominating Dalton worthy? Yes, that is worthy.
Yes, must discuss.
Yep.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.